Come on, bruh. Another Radiohead video? Do you really think a fourth wall break is that funny? I'm supposed to be in class right now anyway. Well, technically, since we are self-aware both that the premise of the channel is broken and of the attempted fourth wall break, it's a fifth wall break? What are you talking about? I have no idea. So if we broke the fifth wall and are aware of that, that means we technically broke the sixth wall. Trust me, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Why? At the seventh wall break, things start to get weird. At the 10th wall break, the sky turns black. And I've never gone past the 15th wall break, and I don't really want to find out. What about the 67th wall break? Oh my god, it's worse than I thought. Okay, so my presentation today is on why neurodivergent people love Radiohead. Excuse the clickbait title, I thought it sounded better, but just to be clear, I will be talking about neurodivergent people in general, including autism. So, yeah. Slide 1. There's nothing to objectively suggest neurodivergent people enjoy Radiohead more than neurotypical people. The stereotype emerged from places like Twitter and Reddit. Radiohead is introspective, emotional, and densely layered. Autistic music listeners are similarly stereotyped as loving artistic, cerebral, experimental, or quote-unquote deep music. After this stereotype became widespread, many Radiohead fans who were autistic gladly accepted it as a badge of honor. And now it's become an internet meme that if you're a Radiohead fan, you're either autistic or have no social life. And to be clear with this presentation, I'm not trying to reinforce any stereotypes. Rather, kind of the direction I'm coming at with this video is showing you why neurodivergent people experience music differently and how they connect with it. That's kind of what this is about. This is not saying, oh, all autistic people love Radiohead or all neurodivergent people love Radiohead, right? Like, it's just explaining the connection that neurodivergent people have that's different than being neurotypical. So yeah, that's slide 2, relatability. Neurodivergent people are more likely to suffer from depression. Autistic people are 4 times more likely to suffer from depression, and for ADHD, 1 in 3 people have reportedly suffered from depression. Why? Well, it's due to a few different factors. The first is feeling out of place in this world. Many neurodivergent people feel intense loneliness or the sense that they don't belong, and that everyone has a rule book that they didn't get, or that they just live on a different wavelength. Places like school and jobs are not designed for neurodivergent people, which, depending on the severity of the condition, can make life incredibly difficult and isolating. Other things can also contribute, like sensory overstimulation, difficulty socializing and communicating, feeling misunderstood or weird and broken, and neurodivergent people are more likely to experience emotions on a more intense level. There's also a phenomenon known as autistic burnout, which is extreme mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion caused by the stress of navigating a world designed for neurotypical people, which can lead to increased depression and isolation. All of that is to say that neurodivergent people are more likely to be drawn to music that reflects on those feelings and themes, and who's better known for that than Radiohead? Radiohead is often mischaracterized as just sad, edgy music, but their music dives deep into themes of depression, alienation, existential dread, and mental health struggles. What makes it so special, though, is that they don't make it seem like you're wrong or broken for feeling that way. Rather, when someone gets into Radiohead music, they often find a safe space in their music, because they're made to feel like it's finally safe and okay to feel how you truly feel. That's very special for anyone, but in neurodivergent people, who might learn to repress and mask their emotions, it can feel intense and relieving, making a deep connection to the music. But Radiohead doesn't just make sad music. What I think is so special about their work is that it deals with emotions across the entire spectrum of the human condition. There's hopeful, vulnerable, and fun tracks just as much as there's sad ones. Basically, Radiohead can easily become a safe space for anyone suffering emotionally, and neurodivergent people are more likely to create an intense connection because music makes them feel safe and understood. Slide 3, hyperfixation. Neurodivergent people often have intense hyperfixations. These can be known as a special interest, which is an intense fascination that can last years and is usually a source of joy, comfort, and emotional stability. In any case of a hyperfixation, it involves obsessive qualities where the fixation can consume a person for hours, forgetting to eat or other important tasks. It's Fixation also usually involves a deep knowledge base and intense enthusiasm, which I think that's really cool. It's no wonder then why Radiohead would be an easy candidate for hyperfixation. Neurodivergent people are more likely to have an intense connection and obsession with music. Music is a very common hyperfixation. Radiohead is almost endlessly fascinating. All of their albums are wildly different because the band constantly reinvented themselves. This makes for a goldmine of different eras, sounds, ideas, themes, and concepts that are fascinating to appreciate and dive into. Tom York, the lead singer for the band, is also known for writing cryptic lyricism that follows feeling more than logic. He refuses to explain what songs mean, so anyone can have their own interpretation and project their feelings and experiences onto a song. Radiohead's sonic worlds are also very carefully and densely created. For many neurodivergent people, it's endlessly fascinating to listen to their music dozens or even hundreds of times because every new listen you can discover a new detail, appreciate something you didn't before, and eventually take the whole song in as a whole, both understanding every layer that comprises the song, but also how they all come together to create one complete world. And there's so much lore and extra material to explore as well, whether it's B-sides or unreleased music, alternate live versions, interviews, internet blogs, music videos, etc. There's practically an endless amount of information to discover, study, and appreciate. Because while Radiohead's work is finite, the amount of interpretation and experiences and ideas surrounding it is infinite. For a neurodivergent person's special interest, music is one that can sustain an entire lifetime. And for something like Radiohead, it's not hard to see why someone couldn't be hyper-fixated on it for years. Deep emotional connection, musical complexity and layers, cryptic lore and mystery, and a large variety of sounds, eras, and ideas. Slide 4. Texture. Many neurodivergent people have auditory sensitivity. This isn't just having sensitive ears, it's an involuntary nervous system reaction to certain sounds. Many neurodivergent people can be triggered by loud, distracting, or obnoxious sounds. In ADHD, for example, background noise can't be filtered or ignored because their brains process all information equally, so it's not uncommon for someone with ADHD to need complete silence when falling asleep. On the flip side, there is a deep sensitivity to aesthetically pleasant sounds in music for many with auditory sensitivity. Texture is a big factor for many neurodivergent people with music. They often prefer warm analog sounds, spacey mixes, subtle low-end frequencies, reverb, and sensual harmony. The right soundscapes can feel ethereal and deeply soothing to a neurodivergent person who also has auditory sensitivity. Radiohead is, of course, masters of texture and atmosphere to a virtuosic degree. Especially past OK Computer, their music is densely layered with subtle textures and atmosphere that creates an incredibly immersive world. This is thanks to many different factors. First is the wonderful production of Nigel Godrich, but also Johnny Greenwood and Tom York, who love to endlessly tinker with sounds, textures, and alternative takes. Or another one would be the electronic detour taken with Kid A and Amnesiac, which extended their music vocabulary far beyond rock tradition for the remainder of their career. That's why albums like In Rainbows or A Moon-Shaped Pool feel genreless. They might have rock sensibility, but there's so much going on completely beyond genre that the music simply cannot be defined by it. It's just Radiohead. So thanks to that intense dedication to perfect texture, it can really make Radiohead music very soothing for someone with auditory sensitivity. It's not just how something sounds, that sound can often cause a physical reaction or sensation. So a certain detail can tickle your brain in the right way, and that can make the music experience very special and calming. In the opposite direction, this can cause an inexplicable aversion to some music. A song that's overproduced, loud, messy, or heavy on the low end can be stressful or discomforting to someone with auditory sensitivity. They might be able to objectively appreciate a song, but they can't enjoy it themselves. I think bass is also a very important consideration for Radiohead especially. Bass is a big deal for me personally, and I think a really good bass line can make or break a song. Colin Greenwood, the bassist for Radiohead, is an expert at this. His bass lines are rarely flashy or even noticeable without a close ear. Instead, his restraint in his playing means that the bass subtly complements the music, adding a pleasant low-end bloom. For many people with auditory sensitivity, the low end is just as important. It can also very much tickle your brain and produce a pleasant physical sensation when done right. Slide 5. Other music neurodivergent people like. If we consider all these factors, emotional depth, endless possibility for fascination, and texture, these are obviously factors that are not exclusive to Radiohead. So here's an interesting connection. Neurodivergent people are more likely to have an intense connection to music, like I said, which means that neurodivergent people are very commonly seen in music circles, and they stay there due to the intensity of their fascination and the longevity of the special interest. So that means that a lot of the albums that dominate music circles and charts are ones that neurodivergent people can enjoy and have a special connection to. And here's just a couple examples of that. Shoegaze is a genre that is definitely popular among the neurodivergent crowd, and none is a better example of that than Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. If Radiohead was valued for texture, then Loveless is valued for texture tenfold. The album is basically a constant wash of intense sound. For many, especially with auditory sensitivity, it can be extremely comfortable and enjoyable. The music is emotionally ambiguous, allowing listeners to sit with their emotions rather than be led in any specific direction. And shoegaze as a genre, especially Loveless with its crazy pedals and distortion and layers, is extremely texture heavy. You could probably listen to any of the songs hundreds of times and still find new details because the sonic worlds are so rich and dense. Another good example would be Mad Villainy by MF Doom and Madlib, which is a double trouble. First is Madlib's beats. He has an incredible ear for finding little sections that are musically complete. Take Accordion for example. The little blurb repeats a few dozen times throughout the track, but it never feels tiring because the section is musically complete. His subtle and understated production is also incredibly texturally pleasing, with the vinyl crackle and the warm low-end hum, and the simple but effective production. It's all very soothing and relaxing. But then you add in MF Doom. His vocals are also texturally pleasing in a different way. His vocals in this album specifically are baritone and subdued, which is relaxing compared to the typical aggressive nature of much of hip-hop. And his rhyme schemes are intricate with tons of internal rhyme schemes, onomatopoeia, and phonetic sounds. Many songs off Mad Villainy especially are just very satisfying, not just because they're very impressive from a lyrical standpoint, but purely because the way his voice sounds is soothing and pleasant in a kind of unique way. For me, it really scratches an itch in your brain you can't find otherwise. There's a ton more examples like this, but I wanted to share these two because I found them to be pretty interesting. So in summary, many neurodivergent people are more likely to enjoy Radiohead because of the emotional relatability, dealing with themes of depression, anxiety, and loneliness, which can create a safe space for any listener, as well as the endless potential for interpretation, lore, alternative takes, and other trivia which can easily become a fun rabbit hole to dive into, allowing the band to be a special interest for years. And the band's emphasis on texture, which can be physically stimulating to many neurodivergent listeners, especially those with auditory sensitivity. And to end off this video, I want to say that for anybody watching who is neurodivergent or has auditory sensitivity, or even just wants to share it at all, I don't care, just share your experiences in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about, Radiohead or your favorite albums and kind of what, listening to music means to you. Maybe it's a very safe space and it's comforting, or maybe it, grounds you and helps manage your anxiety or something, something like that. I'd be very interested to hear about it. So if you want to do that, make sure to comment that down below, and I am going to be hearting and replying to all the comments. So yeah. That's my presentation, so,